Hey y'all, Grandma Rose here. I'm at my garden today and I wanted to show you an herb that's blooming. Now this is something that I showed you earlier in the spring. It was coming up all in my driveway and I showed you that herb and several other herbs that a lot of people call weeds. People still call them weeds. But I've been doing some research on this because I knew that this was a very valuable medicinal herb and has been for a very, very, very long time. We're probably talking hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years. I don't know. I didn't live that long ago, but I know this would have been an herb that would have been brought intentionally to the New World when the settlers came over from Europe. And I'm talking about plantain. Now there are two main species of plantain in the United States, or in North America. I'll tell you a little bit more about this in a minute, but the two predominant species are plantain, or it's Plantago lanceolata, or lance leaf plantain, and Plantago major, I can say major, Plantago major, and that is the wide leaf or large leaf plantain. Now, that's pretty much, that was all I knew before. That was all I knew before, that there were two species of plantain that grew side by side and that they were medicinal herbs, but I didn't know what they were good for. Besides chewing up a leaf and spitting it out and putting it on an insect sting, that was supposed to remove the sting or relieve the sting of an insect. That's all I knew, was that plantain was used to treat insect stings. Well, surprise me. I went online and I started looking at this, and there are several websites that talk about herbal medicine and medicinal herbs, and I found a wealth of information about it. So let me turn this around, turn the camera around, and I'll let you see what it looks like right now when it's in full bloom. And this is the lance leaf. This is the lance leaf plantain that I have that's in full bloom. My wide leaf or broadleaf plantain, the Plantago major, I almost said Plantago major. It's not. I think people probably say Plantago or Plantago major. This is the United States. We don't talk Latin. However, in Latin, Plantago would be called Plantago because the A's are soft, like in Spanish, and in French the A's are soft, and they were derived from Latin, so I imagine the Latin pronunciation probably would be the same, but I don't know. Latin is like story. I always have to do this. I took Latin when I was in the 9th grade, and there was a rhyme that went with it when you were taking Latin, and it said, "Latin is a dead language." Said Latin is a dead language, as dead as it can be. It killed off all the Romans, and now it's killing me. Yeah. Well, I went on. I didn't take more than 1 year of Latin, but I did take 3 more years of Spanish. So I had 1 year of Latin and 3 years of Spanish in high school, so I was considered a language major. Little did I know that I would be using Latin later on in my life. Anyway, that is totally besides the point, but I wanted you to know that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, let me turn the camera around and let you see this lance leaf plantain, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the broadleaf plantain. Dog's back there. I don't have a picture of the broadleaf plantain, or Plantago major, flowering, but I do have a picture on my computer of the broadleaf plantain when it was flowering last year. So I will stick that in here, or I'll stick that in the screen when I come to that part when I'm talking about it. So let me turn the camera around. Without any further ado, I will turn the camera around and show you lance leaf plantain. This right here, my dears, is lance leaf plantain. These are the flowers of the lance leaf plantain. Let me move the camera down and let you see what it looks like. You see, there's the leaves. They're called lanceolate, which means lance-shaped. And what is a lance? I'd imagine a lance is probably similar to a sword. So the leaves are sword-shaped. And back up to the flowers again. So let me tell you about it. These haven't started, these have just started blooming, and I do not see any seeds on them yet. And the seeds are going to come up in a minute. Okay, so plantain is a perennial herb. It's going to come back every year, and it has come back every year. And it's almost worldwide distribution. And this genus, Plantago, there's approximately 200 different species of plantain worldwide. The two that grow in this area are the lance-leafed and the wide-leaf. So that's lanceolata and major. So for a long time, in ancient herbal medicine, this herb was considered to be a valuable medicinal herb. It was used for treating coughs, so colds, bronchitis, that kind of thing, lung problems, breathing problems, wounds, inflamed skin, dermatitis, and insect bites. That's pretty much what it was used for. Well, studies have been done on it, and it turns out that the reason it works on these things is because it's antibacterial, antifungal, antioxidant, anti-ulcerative. It's a pain reliever. It's an analgesic, like Tylenol or ibuprofen, aspirin. Now this is a big word. Immunomodulatory. Immunomodulatory. So immuno lets you know that it has something to do with the immune system. And modulate, is where that word comes from, means to modify. So somehow or another, this herb will help the immune system to modify, to fight off whatever it needs to fight off. So it helps the immune system to work better, work smoother. Okay. Now, the one that has the most benefits from what I've been able to understand is the wide leaf, the broadleaf plantain, the Plantago major. Now, studies have been done on this. So these are scientists working in the lab who are trying to find out what it is. Why is it that plantain does what it does, and does it really work? Can it be proven that it does what the old wise women, the medicine women, medicine men, did giving plantain really work, or was it just a placebo? You know, who knows? I mean, did it work because people thought it was going to work, or did it work because it really did? Well, it turns out it really did. Beneficial compounds from this are in all parts of the plant, from the leaves to the stems, to the flowers, to the roots, and the seeds more than anything else. There are more beneficial compounds in the seeds than the other parts of it. Now, another thing that's interesting to know, that there's another species of Plantago in India called, Plantago ovata. So I would imagine that would mean that the leaves are probably oval-shaped. Usually, words like that are usually descriptive, so I would imagine that's what it is. Well, the major compound that is produced in that is called psyllium. I'll put the word on the screen, psyllium. That's the active ingredient in Metamucil. So it's used for bowel issues. It can be used to treat constipation or diarrhea, either one. You can find psyllium as herbal supplements. In the health food store, you can find psyllium. And that's extracted from plantain. It's a different species, not the same species we have, but still plantain. Now, there have been research studies, and it's found that Plantago is actually effective in wound healing. It's actually effective in lowering cholesterol. And it's effective for treating chronic bronchitis, asthma, cough, cold, that kind of thing. These were proven in the laboratory studies. Now, there's something else that you would hardly believe, but it is true, that extracts from the seeds were actually useful in treating cancer. There's another word, and I've forgotten what that word is, for a cancer drug used in chemotherapy. And they found that the extract from the seeds was effective in inhibiting tumor cell growth. Now, isn't that something? So here's plantain. Now, this is from the broadleaf plantain. Now, from what I've read, that there's really no known side effects. Taking plantain's okay. There's no contraindications. In other words, there's not any reason not to use plantain. Now, there are some times that you don't want to take plantain. And one of them is during pregnancy and breastfeeding. And that's not so much because it's known that it's going to have a harmful effect, but mainly is there's just not enough information on herbal supplements. Let me back up and say this again. It's that there's just not enough information on herbal supplement safety. Now, there's another reason, and this is pretty important, that what happens is plantain contains vitamin K. And vitamin K is needed by people who are taking blood thinners, like Coumadin, warfarin, that kind of thing. And they need to take a consistent amount of vitamin K to reduce the risk of changing the effectiveness of their blood thinner. And that's, somebody who has heart disease or other problems that you need to have thin blood. Dog. So if you needed to have this, you need to have exactly the right amount. It has to be in exactly the right proportions with the drug you're taking. Otherwise, the drug might not work. So that is really the only reason that you wouldn't take it. So in other words, if the doctor's already prescribed blood thinner, he's probably already monitoring the amount of vitamin K that the patient's taking. And so taking more vitamin K in the form of plantain probably would be a bad idea, because it would change the levels of vitamin K in the body. And that's really the only reason. So isn't that interesting? That this is a weed. This is a weed that is in almost everybody's yards, almost everybody's garden. But this is something that you should be growing. At least keep a couple of plants. Don't dig them up. Don't throw them out. Don't throw them in the compost. Let a few of them grow. So this is not an unattractive plant. It's pretty. A lot of people grow hostas. And there are some hostas. One of them is called stiletto, that has long, narrow leaves like this. And people prize them and pay big money for their hostas. The flowers are prettier, but these flowers are not ugly. So this is not an unattractive plant, and it has a place in the herb garden. So if you have an herb garden, make a place for plantain in it. So bye, y'all. See you next time.